Shalom, shalom, everyone. Our top story. Firefighter charged after he's accused of sharing photos of twin brothers found dead on Georgia mountain. Authorities say additional testing is needed to determine the cause and the manner of death of 19-year-old twin brothers Kadir Malik Lewis and Naazir Rahim Lewis. A volunteer firefighter has been charged with obstruction, accused of taking photos of teenage twin brothers found dead with gunshot wounds on a Georgia mountain this month. So, you guys, we have been following this case since it broke, and we have some questions that need to be answered. Any investigative body will have the same type of questions when it comes down to investigating a murder scene, you guys. And what it appears is that this particular murder scene has been, I guess the word would be corrupted, because we don't have all of the details concerning what happened to these twin boys. And the details that we do have don't make sense, and they just lead to more questions. So these murders, these two murders, are something that we want to pay very close attention to, because we know in America there is a secret murder mechanism that is killing our young men, our young Hebrew men. And we have to take that absolutely seriously. And so, to just put a fine point on this topic, we have to go to Revelation chapter 18, and I believe it's verse 22. Let's go to 23. Okay, and we know that Revelation 18 is specifically talking about a future period on the earth where a new Babylon will be established in unrighteousness and in wickedness upon the earth. Let's go ahead and start at 23. It says, "And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived." This right here, we believe, in all righteousness and in all investigative matters, that this is the propaganda mechanism that the United States uses to control the thought process of the world. That would be Hollywood, that would be multimedia, that would be entertainment in general, mostly coming out of America in these last days. It says, "And in her, in Babylon, was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all that were slain upon the earth." Now, this verse is very important for you guys to understand, because what it means is that in Babylon was found the blood of prophets. Not that it was seen, it was found. That means it has to be searched out. It's not something that will be obvious or apparent, even though to us, who are the saints, who are the sons of the prophets, to us it'll be very, very clear what's happening. But maybe to the people who are deceived by the sorceries right here, it won't be very clear. So here at Hebrew News, it is our responsibility that if it's not clear, that we make it clear so that we can show how this verse is coming to pass in the leader of the nations, which is America, in this age, you guys. It says also, and all that were slain upon the earth. So the blood of the prophets, the blood of the saints, and of all that were slain upon the earth is found in Babylon. And what this means is that it will be searched out and found. And what we actually see happening is that these twin brothers, the details of their murder are sketchy at best. And if we can do just a brief recap, we've done a story on this before. This is an update. These boys, on the night or the day of March 14th, left their home in Georgia to get on a plane to go to Boston to meet friends. They never got on the plane. Their plane tickets were found in their wallets about 90 miles away from where they lived, on top of a mountain called Bell Mountain. And you guys will understand immediately the significance of Bell Mountain. We know that there is a demonic entity in the Old Testament that is named Baal, a false deity named Baal. And so this is a deity that occultists worship. If you guys have, recognized that in America, what America does is it advertises itself to people who are, like-minded, satanically minded, through symbology. So anybody that is linked to the occult will recognize the symbols that America portrays for the style of worship that it uses, which we know to be satanic. Also us, who are of the believers, who are of the hearers and doers of faith, who walk after Yahushua HaMashiach and keep the commandments of Elohim Yah. We also will be able to recognize these signs and symbols because they're all biblical. They work in the same way that biblical signs. In fact, they are also signs for us because we are not ignorant of the devil and his devices. This that we're looking at right here, this murder, is a device of the devil, you guys, and we'll explain how. So with the details of these particular murders, these twin boys were found murdered, and the investigative body that determined that these kids were murdered gave the explanation that it was a murder-suicide. I'm sorry, I just want to take my time in discussing the details of this case. They put forth the notion that these twin boys murdered each other. Basically, one killed the other and then killed himself. The family has outright rejected that notion, saying that they were more protective of each other than anybody else, that the family members had said that they had never even seen them get into a fist fight, that they were not suicidal or showed any suicidal tendencies at all. So they reject this notion. So what that means, you guys, is that the police department is involved with these murders. Because if the excuse or the concept put forth about the crime doesn't fit or doesn't match, it means that the investigative body is manipulating the crime scene and the concepts surrounding the crime scene. If we know that they didn't have any animosity towards one another, if they didn't have any suicidal ideologies at all, if they didn't have any guns, if they didn't have anything, why promote this idea unless you yourself were the ones that committed the murder? There is no other explanation as to why such an egregious accusation would be leveled on these boys. We know for a fact that the police are involved in the murders of young black men. We know that for a fact. And this looks like one of the textbook examples of how they get away with it. So here's some questions that we have for the GBI, for the investigative body who seems to be involved. Questions. Question number one. How did the boys get to the mountain? Do you understand what I'm saying? According to the family, the boys didn't have any connection to the mountain whatsoever. They had never heard of Bell Mountain. They'd never heard of Hiwassee, Georgia, where Bell Mountain is. They weren't going hiking. They weren't trying to go hiking. They were going on a trip. Why would they be going hiking 90 miles away from where they were getting on a plane, going on a trip to Boston? How did they get to the mountain? That's a very important question that needs to be answered. Why did they go to the mountain? If they're going on this trip, why did they go to this mountain, you guys? 2, where is the gun? What gun? Who had the gun? Whose name is registered on the gun? Where did the gun come from? Why would they have a gun when they were getting ready to go on this trip? Do you understand what I'm saying? Question 3, who is on the other side of this trip? Who were they meeting in Boston, and why were they going to Boston? What is the circumstance around them even leaving in the first place? What were they going for? Who are these people on the other side, you guys? All those questions need to be answered, and they need to be answered with credible statements. They need to be answered with evidence. Do you understand what I mean? Until then, the finger is pointed at the investigative units for being involved. Do you understand what I mean? So here is what it looks like. In our own independent investigation, there can only be one culprit. So just a quick rundown of the scenario that we're looking at here. What it appears is that these 2 boys were abducted and taken up on top of Bell Mountain and sacrificed in a ritual sacrifice. You guys, we have to understand that these racist elements that are in our society aren't just racist. They're satanic, you guys. They're satanic. Who is the number one target, for the adversary? If we are the people of the Bible, if we are the chosen Israelites of the Bible, then without a doubt, we would be the number one target for satanic sacrifice. And so this is literally what we're seeing here, is that these twin boys must have been abducted. Whether they were abducted from the airport, whether they were abducted from, the person that they got to give them a ride to the airport. We don't know. We haven't been given that information. But what we have to, with the information that we have, what we have to surmise is that they were abducted in some way. And the best way to abduct, 2 boys, is the police. Now, if you just have ski masks on and jump out of a van and grab the boys and put them into the van and take them up to this mountain, that's pretty obvious. People could see it. There are cameras everywhere. That's an obvious way to kidnap somebody, and it doesn't always lead to somebody being able to get away with this crime in the way that we've seen that they're getting away with this crime. But what could happen is that the police could pull you over, arrest you, and take you themselves. Nobody's pulling over a cop car to make sure that the perps in the back of the cop car are perps and not kidnapped. Do you see what I'm saying? If you can follow me through the scenario, this is the most likely scenario. That these boys, at some point in time, between the time when they left their house and were on the way to the airport, were approached by an officer or more than one officer and asked to be searched or asked to be investigated. And then once they were investigated, some sort of something was found and they were, quote unquote, arrested, you guys. If you can imagine that you can't just overpower these twin boys and just kidnap them, but you can coerce them into getting into a vehicle with you by authority. If these boys didn't think that anything was going to be wrong, if they said, just come with me, we'll go down to the station and handle this the right way, whatever it is that they, were accused of or whatever it is they were stopped for, they must have been coerced into getting into another car or, going with someone, and that person, being an authority figure, having to be an authority figure, would have been able to say, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. We'll just go down to the station and take care of this. And then kidnap these boys and take them to the top of this mountain, and then execute them ritual style, you guys. We know that it was a ritual. I think this information came out in the other video concerning these boys. We know it was a ritual because it was done on a ritualistic high date, the Ides of March, March 15th. This is a date that human sacrifice was done. In fact, the most famous human sacrifice that was done on the Ides of March, what the Ides of March are known for, we talked about this in the last video, is that Julius Caesar was assassinated on the Ides of March. And we know, so that points to a group that has Roman connection, that may be connected to Roman deities. What also connects to Roman deities is the fact that this sacrifice was twins. Do you understand what I'm saying? Romulus and Remus were the quote-unquote mythological founders of Rome, and they were twin boys who were supposedly raised in the woods that grew up and founded the city of Rome. Romulus being the name of the city of Rome, named after this person Romulus. Romulus and Remus, the twin boys that founded Rome. So it appears that whatever cult is involved, this cult that's embedded, we know that there are cults embedded in every police agency across the country. Whatever cult was involved, we know that that cult must have been some sort of Roman style cult because of these two elements being done on the Ides of March and it being the sacrifice of twins. We know that there is a police element involved because this volunteer firefighter was charged with taking pictures of the bodies. Why was this volunteer firefighter there, you guys? What element, what investigative role did the volunteer firefighter have? The boys were found on the top of a mountain. Why would you have fire personnel on the top of the mountain? The volunteer firefighters usually don't have cars. They would go in on fire trucks. And so why do you have a fire truck at the top of this mountain? Did they have fire trucks on the top of this mountain? Why was this volunteer firefighter there? What role did he play? And now why is he sharing the photos of the bodies, you guys? So what we're looking at, you guys, is this person here is a leaker. He is a leaker and has leaked the photos of these boys. What we're looking at is a circle of information, an enclosed circle of information. It appears that the police or the investigative unit that was, responsible for these murders, whether it be police, FBI, or whoever it is at GBI in that area, I believe it was the police there, maybe state, local police there. We know that they must have been the ones involved because information about the murders is being passed around in this circle. It looks like that whoever did this crime, whatever police unit did this crime, was bragging about it and shared the photos to other people in this closed community, in this closed circle. Shared the photos of what they had done, what sacrifice that they had offered. And this person right here, whether intentionally or unintentionally, shared with the wrong person and is now charged with obstructing an investigation because he shared this information with the wrong person, you guys. That's what you're looking at right here. This is what you're seeing. You're seeing an investigation being stifled here. And so we know that there's no good reason for these twin boys to go onto the top of a random mountain. There's no good reason for these twin boys to have a gun when they're getting ready to go on a trip to Boston. There's also no good reason for them to have killed one another. There's no suicidal ideology in their histories. There's no suicidal ideology coming from the family saying that they were, troubled teens or anything like that. There's nothing that indicated that they were upset with one another. So this means that since this idea is floated, the investigative body that floated this information has to be covering for something else. And what it looks like they're covering for is this closed circle, this closed unit of occultists, of racist occultists that committed this atrocity on top of Bell Mountain, you guys. And we need to get justice for these two brothers. We need to continue to ask these questions so that we can have the information that we need to make a serious and steadfast accusation for who is responsible for this. And because of this right here, we recognize that it must be, and then for, of course, the other reasons that we've already stated, we recognize that this must be police murder right here. Police sacrificial murder right in front of our eyes, exactly in the way that Revelation states it would be found. And in her was found the blood of the prophets. The prophets, you guys, are the children of Israel and of saints. The saints, you guys, are the children of Israel, according to Psalms 148, I believe. And all that were slain upon the earth, you guys. This all that were slain upon the earth is important too, and we'll come back to that. But there's another element of this story that we have to address. The last element would be, what about the people in Boston? Who are these people in Boston that invited these twin boys up for whatever function or whatever friends that they had that were there? What is the connection there? You see, it appears that whatever group that they were going to see in Boston has to also be involved in the murder too, because it is this group that must have lured them away from their family in order to kill them. That indicates pre-plan right here. This is something that had to be planned for a little while. They were probably scoping out these boys and setting them up for the date for them to be sacrificed on this mountain, for them to be kidnapped in the way that they were on the way to this whatever outing it was in Boston. You see, they had to be coaxed away from their family. And so you may say, okay, well, why didn't they just wait until they got to Boston to do this? Well, because if they did that, then the group that was leading them away from their family would automatically be accused. In this way, the group that's in Boston can connect with the group that's in Georgia and use one another in order to keep suspicion from being put on one group or the other. If the people that were in Boston invited just the two of them, no parents, no nothing, that means that they were going to need transportation to wherever it is they were going. They could set that up too, and then they could set up the interception of the police car to intercept that that particular route to the airport, and then take these kids, these teenagers, these young men to the mountain to execute them. You guys, this is the best possible scenario for this crime. It is the absolute best possible with all the information given, absolute best possible scenario. We can't look at it any other way because of the evidence that we have. We know it couldn't have been a murder-suicide. The family rejects that notion. That means automatically that the people that are investigating must be trying to hide something. Since this volunteer firefighter that shouldn't have been there at all, shouldn't have had access to sensitive information at all, had and was sharing sensitive information, he must have got it from somewhere. Either he took the pictures himself and he shouldn't have been there, or he was given the pictures by one of the people from the investigative body, which also shouldn't have happened. Which means then there is a circle of people sharing this information, and there should not be. This points to there being a cult embedded within the police department that also has links to the fire department, probably also to the ambulance unit and all these other, state agencies, if you understand what I'm saying. This would be, they would bleed over between the agencies. You'd have policemen that were in the cult. You'd have judges, lawyers that were in the cult. You'd have doctors. You'd have ambulance operators, ambulance dispatchers, firefighters. You'd have all of these different elements in the cult because that's what they use in order to maintain power. We know that the Freemasons is Freemasonic cults that are in all of these different places, and they would work together. This is what we're seeing now, the occult background that is going on behind the scenes in America, you guys. And pay close attention to the means by which it is done, you guys. This suicide. Do you understand what I mean? It is very easy to fake a suicide. And I want you guys to pay very close attention to that, because faking a suicide is the calling card of these cults that are in the police department. We'll prove it right here for you guys.
A veteran Harris County Deputy Christina Caller. Her death last week was ruled a suicide. Caller is one of 4 current or former Harris County deputies who've taken their own lives in just the last 6 weeks. ABC 13's Jessica Willey is live tonight, and this is leading to important.
This is Harris County, Texas, you guys, and this is current, March 21st, 2025. This is the 24th now. In the last 6 weeks, you guys, there were 4 sheriff deputies that committed suicide in the same county, in the same office. 4 in the last 6 weeks. And what people are doing is they're saying, oh, there must be depression in this particular unit. There must have been, police officers are just highly stressed, so they are more likely to commit suicide. No, you guys. What is the most sensible conclusion is that these 4 officers were involved in something else, and they were assassinated. And their assassins were also on the police department, were also investigative units, and were able to falsify crime scenes in order to have it ruled a suicide. This is the hallmark of police assassination. This is the hallmark of investigative cover-up. If you have someone that you want to execute, but you do not want it to appear to be a murder, you, as an investigative unit, have the power to falsify investigations so you can make it look like a suicide. I mean, how many movies, have you seen where this has been the calling card? They just put the gun in the person's hand and then, make the scene look like a suicide. What is the likelihood of 4 police officers from the same unit committing suicide all at the same time? No, this is, for lack of a better term, this is mafia-style execution going on right in front of our eyes by the mafia police force. Do you guys understand that the police force is a legitimized mafia? And we can call it a cult, we can call it a mafia, we can call it a gang, we can call it a terrorist unit, you can call it anything that you want, as long as you recognize that it is a body that is embedded in the American justice system, that is used as a mechanism, an underground mechanism for murder. And here is the proof that you have 4 other suicides in a whole other part of the country that also are very, very, very suspicious, you guys, and point directly to the police around them. Nobody is investigating these as 4 murders. They're investigating them as suicides. You don't have 4 suicides in the same department, you guys, but you do have 4 murders from people that stumbled on or were involved in something illegal that may have been threatening to go public, that may have just had too much information, and the public and the police department does not want this information given to the public, so they assassinate these people. You are looking at high-level assassinations even being reported as suicides, which means that these news agencies themselves are also involved, if not just on a propaganda basis, to put out the incorrect information so that you don't continue to investigate. But that's what we're here for at Hebrew News, to look past the headlines into the interpretation as understood from a Hebraic perspective, you guys. This is how we know what's going on in America. Keep your eyes open, you guys.